something about, male bonding when guys get together, or girlfriends when girls get together, and you can talk about things, be open and honest with a friend, and somebody can help you understand Scripture, pray with you. Mentoring is very important. And it says here in the Bible that as long as Zechariah was alive, Uzziah was dead on, straight for the Lord. It says he sought God all the days that Zechariah was there. And God made him prosper. God blessed him. Zechariah instructed him in the fear of the Lord. Now this doesn't mean to be scared. This means to be respectful. In Indonesian, what we say, menghormati. To put God in his proper place. And notice that God prospered him as long as he sought God. It says God gave him success in another translation. There are several different types of successes. God gave him political, economic, military success. Take a look. Take a look at the map here. In the north, I don't know if you can see it there, up in this area is going to be Samaria, and that was ruled by Jeroboam II. There were two Jeroboams in Israel, and this was the last great king of Israel. After this, there was a series of palace revolts, usurpers, fighting, Pekah, and all those other guys, and the whole thing fell apart. But Jeroboam II was the last great king while there was peace in Israel. And then over in the west, oh, I'm sorry, you can't see, bad color there. Over here's the Philistines, and it says in verse 6, he went to war against the Philistines and broke down the walls of Gath, Jabneh, and Ashdod. So he succeeded against the Philistines. It says in verse 7, God helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabs who lived in Gur-baal, and against the Meunites. We don't know where these guys are. They're somewhere down south. Now remember, his father had conquered Edom, so it wasn't Edom. He was going way down into the Arabian Peninsula. And he made war on them and was successful. The Ammonites, modern day Ammon, which is right up here, didn't wait for him to make war. They brought gifts. They paid him basically protection money. It says they brought tribute to him. So if you take a look at the map here, he had peace, political peace in the north, in the south, in the east, and the west. And it was just tremendous. But again, the key was because he was seeking God. Because he was seeking God. He also had economic success. We read that in verse 9, he rebuilt the walls. And in verse 10 it says, he built towers in the desert, dug many cisterns, because he had much livestock in the foothills and in the plain. He had people working in his fields, vineyards, in the hills and fertile lands, for he loved the soil. Now the towers he built were not crude ones like this. This is sort of current Palestine towers, or I would say maybe 20, 50 years ago. His were much better. I tried to get a picture. One of his towers is still standing in the desert, but I could not find the picture. I've seen a picture of it. Now remember, 750 BC, it's still standing there today. He also had lots of cattle, and of course sheep. And it said he had farms and vineyards. Now of course this is not his vineyard, this is some vineyard I pulled off the web. But you get the idea. He was prosperous. He had everything he needed. He had peace and he had prosperity. This is what every one of us wants. Peace and prosperity. He also had military success. It says his army was 307,000 men. Think of that. 307,000 soldiers. I didn't picture all 307,000 here. But that's more than the United States ever put into Iraq, isn't it? That's an awful lot of army men. Not only that, but they weren't just ordinary soldiers. They were really high tech. Take a look down in, where is it? Down in verse 14 of this chapter. It says, Uzziah provided shields, spears, helmets, coats of armor for all his soldiers. Coats of mail, coats of armor. I mean, in those days, a lot of times a guy had to buy his own sword and find his own helmet. But not during King Uzziah's time. He gave them. He also supplied spears, everything they needed. Bows and arrows and sling stones. And then it says, in Jerusalem he made machines designed by skillful men for use on towers and corner defenses to shoot arrows. And I couldn't find a picture, but this one is from about 300 BC. So machines something like this to shoot arrows. And of course, big stones, great big rocks. Something like this Roman-style catapult. Now when we think about these things, we don't think of them as high-tech. They were really big stuff in those days. I remember reading during the siege of Jerusalem, the catapults were so big, they were flinging rocks about the size of cars. Yeah. And the people in Jerusalem saw them incoming, and they would run out of the way. So the Romans started to paint them kind of a light whitish blue, so you couldn't see the rocks coming in. You could hear them, but you couldn't see them. I mean, would you think of something the size of a car incoming on your town? Uzziah built all these things because he had the wealth, the money, the welfare. And you think about this, you say, wow, this guy was incredible. His fame spread far. He was wonderfully or marvelously helped. He was strong. And as I said, he had the political success, the economic success, the military success, and fame. And I wish the story stopped there. Because this is a story of a man that really had everything. He sought God, and God just blessed him and blessed him and blessed him. I mean, he controlled the economy, he controlled the politics, he controlled the military. Basically, he controlled almost everything except the religious life. And unfortunately, that's where we had some problems. When he got strong, he became proud, arrogant. He forgot that God had blessed him. And we've got to be careful. I know we work nearly our whole lives at a good job. First we work to get a good job, then we work at a good job to get money, to get a good house, a good car, good education for our children. And we work and we work and we work to build all these things. But we need to remember, it's God's blessing. He forgot. He forgot. He grew proud. He grew arrogant. It says, he became unfaithful to God in verse 16. He entered the Lord's temple, the temple of the Lord, to burn incense on the altar of incense. Only the priests, only the descendants of Aaron were allowed to burn incense. That was what God told Moses. And Uzziah must have forgotten, because two of Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, had burned incense with the wrong fire. They didn't use holy fire. and they were killed. Uzziah controlled, like I said, the economy, the politics, the military. Now he wants to control the religion. And you can't do that. You do not control God. He'd gotten so big, so powerful that he thought, you know, I'm like God. I can do this. I can do this. As a matter of fact, there was a popular song, I think a year or so ago, and the chorus went, "You're not God." And we laugh about it, but sometimes we begin to run our lives as if we are the center of the universe, as if we